What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today we need to talk about those upcoming starter decks. Starter Deck 8, the black starter deck featuring Luffy, and Starter Deck 9, the yellow starter deck featuring Yamato. You see, I told you about these a while ago now. It's been a while since these were revealed, and we've been waiting. We've been waiting quite a while. But we're now just 1 month and 1 week away from release. And they are next up, so to speak. They are the next thing that's being released, which means they are the next thing for which we will get reveals. And we've got some reveals. We've got 4 cards that have been shown off on a poster. And yeah, they're a little blurry, and no, they're not perfect. But you know what, ladies and gentlemen? We've got the first reveals of a new product, and that makes me very, very happy indeed. Shout out to Dylan Kaufman over on Facebook. Orange Samurai D posted these, and Dylan Kaufman came along with the translations. So thank you for being a little bit awesome. And it seems like, at least, what we've got here is actually the designated super rares. The 4 super rares. Of course, remember, in every starter deck you get 2 super rares. And they come hollow with the fancy border and all that. That seems like what we got here. So let's go in order, and let's start off with Starter Deck 8. And let's start off with Uta. I don't think we've had a black Uta yet. Now we have. 2 cost, 3,000 power, no counter. And get used to that, incidentally. None of the 4 cards we're talking about here have any counter potential at all, which means there better be something in the card we like, otherwise they're just going to be a bit rubbish. So apparently what we got with Uta here is it cannot be KO'd by leader attacks, which is good. It means leaders can't take it out. If you are resting, you can be taken out by your opponent's characters, but not by their leader. And realistically, right, yes, you are going to be taken out by characters. No, this isn't going to give you some kind of immunity that keeps you on the field forever. So don't think this is just going to keep you there and make you invincible. What it's going to do is force your opponent to attack you with a character to take you out, not a leader. And sometimes they won't have a character. And sometimes they're not going to want to use a character. They want to use a leader. It's going to force your opponent into some awkward situations. Not an amazing skill that makes you play the card, but quite a nice one anyway. And it's got an activate main, rest this, to give a character -2 cost for the turn. I kind of love it. Because the thing is, these black cards, what they really want to do is minus the cost. We've seen this ever since black came around in the One Piece TCG. What you're trying to do here is lower your opponent's character's costs and then take advantage of them. We've got a million cards that KO, 0 cost characters, etc. This is going to help you massively. Which means, of course, that Uta is often going to be rested, not because she's attacked or anything like that, but she's rested to reduce the cost of characters. Which means your opponent is going to want to take Uta out because she's super annoying, but in order to do so, they are going to have to make sure they're using a character, not a leader, and this is actually going to wind up being kind of annoying. I could get on board with this one. As for Shanks, we've got a very big character here, 9 cost, 10,000 power, so yeah, this is a game ender. We've seen a few of these. Very expensive, very powerful. They're coming out when you've got all your Don on the field, or pretty much all your Don on the field, and you need to make it work. Is it good enough? Well, on play, discard 1 card to KO all of your opponent's cards with a cost of 1 or less. Yeah, that's phenomenal. That is absolutely phenomenal. Like, absolutely flat out, over the top, ridiculous, phenomenal. Because again, the entire point of these black decks that we see is lowering the cost of your opponent's characters so that you can then take advantage of them. And when you're taking advantage, this is like the perfect taking advantage card. Because you're literally just KOing them. I mean, one of my favourite cards in black, one of the cards which I think has really unlocked black, is one of the super rares we saw in OPO2, Kazan. 10 cost, 10,000 power, but on your turn, all of your opponent's characters get -5 to their cost. And when you play, you can KO one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 0. And look, I know it's a lot to ask, I get that. But if you can get Kazan one turn and then Shanks the next, that's a full-on board wipe. Because in a way to get Kazan, you are going to end up getting a whole bunch of characters that have ways to reduce the cost. And that's going to be beautiful. And then you come in here and you just KO the lot of them. I just love it. I think this is absolutely brilliant. I think this is one of those cards. And let's be clear, this is not an easy card to use. And I'm not just talking about the fact that it is a card which is, 9 cost. It's more than that. It is also the fact that on its own, it's kind of rubbish. If all you do is just play this on its own, then you'll get a bunch of characters that are naturally 1 cost, and there won't be that many of them, and it will be a little bit rubbish. That's not where your benefit's really coming in here. Where you're getting the benefit here is where you've got other cards, like Kazan or almost anything else in black, which will lower the cost. You lower the cost of all of your opponent's cards, and then you drop this, and that absolutely wrecks your opponent's setup, and you get to just sit there and chuckle. Now, moving over into yellow, we do have a couple of super rares. Interesting to note that Luffy is actually the one we've seen, at least the one on the front, is a character card, not a leader, though we do know that we are getting a Luffy leader. But we know that the Luffy character now isn't a super rare because we've seen the 2 super rares. So how did the non-super rare Luffy card end up on the front of the box? The honest answer is, I don't actually know. Hey-ho, maybe the artwork's really nice. Well, it is really nice. So anyway, going over to yellow, we've got ourselves Portgas D Ace. We've got Ace. 6 cost, 7,000 power, and once per turn, if this character would be KO'd, you may trash a card from the top or bottom of your life instead. And I kind of like this. Now, we talk a lot in One Piece about 7,000 being one of the key numbers, and it is. And the reason 7,000 is the key number is because when you are attacking, the tie goes to the attacker. That is to say, when I'm attacking, if I'm attacking a 7,000 power character / leader, I win, because I've got 7, they've got 7, tie goes to the attacker. And the leaders generally have 5,000, and the biggest counter we see on its own is 2,000, at least on a character. So if they drop a 2,000 counter, and I've got 7,000 power, I still win. They need to drop a 2,000 and something else. So basically, I want to keep this in play. And this is one of those characters, basically what you want to do here is if you are rocking and taking out all of their life, you give up life to keep this on board. Remember, sometimes you're ahead and giving up the life doesn't matter. And that's fine. But sometimes giving up the character matters, either because you don't have the Don to play a new character, or because you don't have a character in your hand in order to play, etc., etc. It's going to go a little bit rubbish. Here, you keep the character on the board, and it's as simple as that. If you really want to keep your character on board, this is wonderful. If not, this is a little bit rubbish. And that means that we can finish off with Kozuki Oden. 7 cost, 7,000 power. And Don X1, double attack. That's really good. Like, really good. It's got 7,000 power, but we talked about why that's good. We don't need to repeat ourselves. Double attack is great. I still don't like that it's called double attack, because it's 1 attack that deals 2 damage. It's double damage, not double attack, boo, etc. But this is still good. We like this very, very much indeed. And on KO, discard 2 cards from your hand to add a card from the top of your deck to your life. So you've got double attack. And if your opponent has the audacity to actually try and take this out, which they're obviously going to want to because of your whole double attack thing, you get to gain a life. And sure, you've got to discard 2 cards in your hand to do so. You're not always going to have 2 cards. Where you do have 2 cards, you're not always going to have 2 cards that you're willing to get rid of, etc. It's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. But it is pretty gosh darn good, ladies and gentlemen. It is pretty gosh darn good. This is another one of those cards I'm absolutely in love with. The fact that Don X1 gives double attack, and then on KO you basically get to recover, I can see this being a staple in a whole bunch of yellow decks. And it is worth noting, of course, that because you are adding a card from the top of your deck to your life, that means that you could be gaining a new trigger. It means that a card that has a good trigger that wasn't in your life at the start of the game might end up in your life, and then you get advantage of that trigger. This is just absolutely brilliant. It's just a super rares for the time being. We can't really sit down right now and say exactly how good these starter decks are, but it certainly is starting to look really good. These are starting to look very, very nice. I'm a fan of these, and I've got my eye on these already. But I want to know what you think, ladies and gentlemen, about these starter decks, about these 4 cards, about anything One Piece. So let me know in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice! And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at the Wasi. That's where we talk One Piece and a bunch of other card games. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts, join a Discord and chat, all kinds of fun things. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching Wasi Plays.